So, as soon as the shutdown happened, my first thought was, how do we start up again in a safe way? Because like my minor is electronic music, my major is film and digital media, concentration in digital media production. So I am acutely aware of how the world, the digital world, can connect us. And my immediate thought was, the drive-in is going to come back again. And so I partnered with a friend of mine. His name is Brian Snyder. He's a very funny young guy who, as soon as he turned 21, he started going to the open mics. And I said, why weren't you sneaking in? Well, like I was when I was 17. And he said, because I didn't want to get places shut down. And I said, okay, you. Fair
He's
enough.
a better person than you.
Fair enough. I'm selfish. But he's very funny, and he has a very polished sense of humor that I really, really like. And so I said to him, Brian, we're going to do a drive-in comedy show. And he said, okay, where? And I said, I don't know. Let's start scouting locations. So we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know how we were going to do it. And we just went to the first place we could think of, which was the old drive-in comedy, or it's not comedy, the old drive-in theater, the old drive-in movie theater in Santa Cruz on Highway 1, that has, for the last 15 years, only been host to the Saturday Santa Cruz County Flea Market. And so we just drove in there and figured out where the electrical outlets were, and I've got a mixer and I've got a microphone. We figured we could plug it into one of them FM transmitters that you just have on your car, and we said, okay, let's start figuring this out. And we learned quickly that our FM transmitters on our cars were not very good, because I mean, you get the Bluetooth thing. Do you have one?
No, I don't think so. Or I might. I don't know.
It's one of those. It plugs into the cigarette lighter in your car, and it connects via Bluetooth, or you can plug in, a headphone, an aux cable, and it transmits, the FM signals to take over a specific station on your car, so that you can play, your music while you're driving around rather than listen to the radio.
Okay, yeah.
So we had that all set up, and then we called the company that was operating the Santa Cruz Flea Market to just be like, can we do a drive-in comedy show here? And they said no. And we said, how come? And they said, because we don't own it. Sutter Health owns it, and they will not allow it. And we said, oh Lord, that's a mega billion-dollar company. We don't have the lawyer money for that. So we pivoted, and we found a city parking lot, and we bought a stronger FM transmitter. And before I go any further, I should mention that this the technology that we found was not just because we went for it. We are not the first people to do a drive-in comedy show. The way that we found out exactly what FM transmitter worked was because there's a scene in Alaska. And by the way, my first question was, there's a scene in Alaska? But so this guy, Alex, he goes by Alex, just Alex. That's his name. He was a Las Vegas comedian. He moved to Anchorage, and he figured out the FM transmitter that can broadcast FM frequencies like 100 yards, 300 feet. And so he started a show where they just plugged everything through their mixer into the transmitter, and they had honks for laughs because there's nobody in Alaska, so nobody cares. And it worked, and they've been doing drive-in comedy shows since almost like 3 weeks after the shutdown.
Wow. Okay. And they talked with you, and they were consulted kind of.
Yeah, and so I as soon as I saw that video, we had been doing our research and all that on how to do it. But as soon as he told us how to do it, we were like, okay, all we got to do is build a stage to stand on and figure out what to do instead of honks for laughs. Because I mean, Santa Cruz is not Anchorage, Alaska. There's a population density going on. And we didn't want to get the cops called on us. So what we did was lights. You flash your lights instead of laughs.
Okay, that's good.
And
so, mm-hmm.
Well, what we learned was we should have told people to use phone lights instead of car lights because I had to jumpstart 2 different cars.
And that was something that I was thinking about because you are too young to know what it was like to go to the drive-ins. But there was a couple nights where my parents, that they accidentally left their lights on and they would have to get the car jumped.